Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today's Sunday chat's going to be shorter than normal. Hannah's down for the weekend and we've got things to do today, but I can still get a video done. So in a packed video today we're going to have a report on yesterday, which was the coach trip and the RHS show at Wisley, so I'll have a chat about that. I've got some new plants to get out the bag, so it's not even an unwrapping video, it's an unbagging video, which will consist of getting the plants out of the bag and having a look at them. They didn't get wrapped up, basically. I've got some new blooms to show you and some blooms that have opened better than the last time we saw them. And yeah, that will probably do for today. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, good morning, and it is early in the day. As I said, I've got Hannah down today, but I thought first I'd have a chat about the trip yesterday. You know, when you're organising a coach trip, it's not just a matter of turning up, getting on the coach, getting off, doing the day and coming back again. You've got all the what goes on in here about things that could go wrong and, you know, the coach not turning up. So for me it's a relatively stressful day compared with everybody else who just has a nice day out. So anyway, the first pickup point, we got a real advantage this year that we haven't had before because internet banking's up and running for our society. So most people have paid in advance, which is brilliant because normally getting the people on the coach, I've got to, like, who are you? I don't know everybody's name, right? And you haven't paid, and they've got a check. I've got to check that the check has been written out properly and everything, or take the cash, and you know, it's all a faff getting the people on the coach because I need to know they paid and everything before they get on. But the first pickup point, everybody paid in advance, so well, get on the coach then. So we set off and got to the second pickup point where some people did have to pay. So we got them going, and then the coach set off, and I sat down and I was just going through the list, and I had to go up and get to the driver. I said, can we go back? There's two people that are supposed to be getting on that are not ticked off. Yeah? So either they've got on and I haven't ticked them off, or we've left them behind. So can we just turn around and go back and wait another 5 minutes? So we did that. While he was turning around and going back, I realised that I hadn't ticked them off and they were on the coach. So we then had another go off to the third pickup point where those were the people that were from Wessex Orchid Society. They got on at Winchester, and two of those had paid, two of them hadn't. They had the money ready on the coach, we're off. Everything's fine. And then we stop at a motorway service station for like a comfort break, and people can grab a coffee or a sandwich or something like that, because you have to bear in mind the people who first got on the coach at the first point, they may have driven for an hour to get there. You know, so it's like 2 hours into the trip for them and they haven't had a stop. So we stopped there, and I've got a number on the coach. I don't need to know who they are. All I need to know is I've got this number of people on the coach. So they all wander off, and then we have a set time. You know, you've got whatever it is, 20 minutes. Get back on the coach, and I've got to check that we've got everybody before we move off. Because of all the places to be left behind, the motorway service station's not ideal, is it? In the middle of nowhere, there's no transport. So anyway, I've got 27 on the coach according to my list. I know 25, we've got 2 missing. So can anybody see a seat that hasn't got people in, that had people in on the way here, so that we can see who's missing? No, everybody's here. Well, I've got 27 and we've only got 25. I'll count again. 25. So well, I've got 2, I'm going to have to call a register. So it was like being at school. I actually called the register and people shouted out that they were there. And as I was going down calling the names, I realised I had 2 people on there twice. So we didn't have 27 people, we only had 25. You do feel a fool. It's where I was cutting and pasting. People who dropped out, I cut them off the list and pasted them at the bottom as cancelled, and then moved the list up. Well, obviously didn't move it up far enough and left the top 2 people in there you know, so they ended up there twice. So, problem solved. We got to Wisley after a lot of motorway traffic and hold-ups, and I had to go and get the tickets. And it's a group booking, so I have to go in with my booking form, get a ticket for everybody, and came back out with the tickets. And I said the queue was right back out of the entrance and right back out into the car park, almost as far as the eye could see. And I said, I hope we haven't got a queue up, as we've already got our tickets. So we've paid, because we didn't have to pay in fact, but you know what I mean. And she said, no, if you all stay together and turn up over here at this side door and see that lady with the purple jacket, she'll let you through and you can come in as a group without queuing. So back to the coach, right, we don't have to queue. Everybody's getting worried to death that they're going to have to queue, you know. So, no, you don't have to queue, but we have to all stay together and arrive at the same time to be let in through the side door. So, can you all form up in pairs and hold hands like you did at school? Got them all in a crocodile to go. Anyway, we got in and I said, right, that's it. You've got a map. You're on your own. And I must admit, the new building that the show was in is up. It's called Hilltop, and it's a literal description. That's a fair old climb for elderly people. That was quite a climb. I was puffing, you know, and we took it slowly, you know. It's a good 15-minute walk as well. So it's a massive place, Wisley. That's the thing. You need a whole day to see that place, and then you still wouldn't see it all. But the entrance had a double line of cherry trees, all in full blossom, and then when you got in, there was another double row of cherry trees. It was like being in Japan. It was absolutely stunning. And no, I haven't got any pictures. I didn't film the grounds or anything like that. I have got clips of the Orchid Show, which I will put together for either tomorrow or the day after, depends how things go. So I've got some orchid displays to see, and yeah, the sun shone all day long, it was mild, it was pleasant, everybody had a wonderful time. And the driver got a bit of a move on the way home. We got back earlier than we expected, quite honestly, so it went okay. It was a good day out. It takes a bit of organising a coach trip, you know, it really does. And as I said, we had 5 people drop out very close to the time, which took us down below our break-even point, so we actually ran the coach at a bit of a loss this time round. But I had permission to do that. What the committee have said is this is an Orchid Society function. When people get their programme as a new member, this is what we do. And one of those things we do is the coach trip, so it needs to take place even if it doesn't make a profit. So I got away with it. It's the first time I haven't made a profit. But there was just people dropping out through ill health and things like that. You can't help that sort of thing, can you? Anyway, unlike most other people, I pre-ordered my plants. I contacted Susanna is her proper name, at Spiciotic Plants and said, you know, can I order some plants, you bring them to the show, and you don't have to wrap them, I don't have to pay for postage. Unfortunately, she took that literally. So when I went to get my plants, they're in a little plastic tray. I said, I can't take them home like that on a coach, and I need to video them being unwrapped. You're going to have to do something about it. She said, well, I can put them all in a bag. I thought, yeah, we'll do an unbagging video. So that's what I've just got, the plants in a bag. All I've got to do is take them out of the bag. So rather than move the camera and do an unbagging video as such, I'll just get them out of the bag and bring them up to the camera and show you. So we'll have a look at my new plants. There are 4, one of which I have never heard of. So what are you getting that for? What are you getting that for? Well, to try it. It's a dendrobium, not that daft. Right, so plant number 1. And Susanna said, I'm a bit iffy about the roots on this plant. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. And typically it's a cattleya. And this was chosen for its blooms. It's Cattleya Varut Star Track. And it's got RTH in brackets. What's that short for? Can't be Renanthera. Anyway, if I hold that up, you can read what's on the label. So that's what it is. And as far as the older roots are concerned, down in the pot, still in their moss, naughty, they're not that good. I can see they're not that good, but they're viable. They can still hydrate the plant, they're just old and tired. But up here, on the latest mature growth, is a new set of roots. So I'm happy with that, and they're going down into bark, yeah? And in addition to that, we've got a nice strong new growth pushing out, which at some point will produce roots, unless it's one of those Cattleyas that produces the roots on the previous growth as the new growth pushes on. Sorry about the kit, it's just early in the day, so the place is still warming up. Yeah, so a nice Cattleya. Blooms on that are gorgeous. If that's still on the on the website and I can steal the picture, I will. So you may get a pop-up and a picture, you may not. So that's that one. And now what I'm going to do is just turn this thermostat down so that the kit turns off. I'll turn it back on in a minute and we won't forget. Right, and then we've got one that I've been after for a long time and haven't managed to be able to get hold of. And this this is a Rhyncho vola. So it's a Brassivola crossed with a something or other, whatever. And it's David Sander. And it has the most gorgeous blooms. Brassivola style blooms, but much bigger. And Brassivola blooms often have very skinny petals and sepals. They're a very wispy looking plant, almost Brassia-like to a silly extent, but spidery, you know, very thin and wispy, whereas this has got some substance. This is a nice plant. It's growing in at least 2 separate directions, and we don't want the weed in it, do we? And it's in a rubbish pot, it's in moss, and all of the roots around the outside of the pot, which means that will repot successfully quite well. And on those 2 growing leads, there should be new growth pushing out any time now. It is blooming size, but I don't actually think it's bloomed yet. But it's a nice plant, it's a good sized plant, and it will grow on nicely. That will get mounted, that's definitely going on a mount. So it's in moss. So we take all the old moss off, most of which will wash off under the tap so that we don't whack the roots around too much. And then it will go on a mount in live moss. So the environment the roots are in is not going to change much. So it should take off quite quickly. Gorgeous blooms on that one. So that's that. What else have we got in here? What have we got in the goodie bag? And what we've got here, we had quite a long chat about this. This is the only way they can import mounted plants now, because the mount has to be inorganic. So they've got these little plastic grids with holes in, which are awful, and they agree. Susa said, it's the only way we can get them, and if the plants that we're importing are mounted, that's the only way we can import them as a mounted plant. She said they don't look very good, but she said the good thing is the roots don't stick very well to this plastic. They thread through all the holes, but they don't stick very well, so they can often be untangled relatively easy. Now this is a replacement. This is Dendrobium harveyanum. Now I had a good one of these, and I chatted to Sudha about that. I said that plant bloomed for 9 months, and with a month of the last blooms finishing, the plant just collapsed and died. And she said an expression that I use quite often. She said it probably bloomed itself to death. Sometimes you just have to give a plant a rest and let it get some new growths going and some new roots. So we agreed on that. Anyway, Dendrobium harveyanum has some of the most beautiful dendrobium blooms because they're that lovely golden yellow. They're a good shape, reasonable size, they're fragrant, and you often get petals and sepals and a frilly lip, yeah? With harveyanum, the whole plant's frilly. The whole bloom has got frills, the petals, sepals and the lip. It's a frilly, bright yellow dendrobium, so that's a replacement for the one I lost. Been after that for a while. And then the last one is one I've never heard of. We will see what it does. But it's a black hair type dendrobium, and it has two beautiful new canes on it. Two. So it's a pretty strong, healthy plant. Again, it's in, you know, zombie moss, and I'm not even going to try and say that. Igneonivium. Read it for yourself. Never heard of it. But I looked at it, I looked at the blooms, looked it up because it is a species, and you know, it's got the long-lasting blooms typical of the black hair type, and it's relative to some of the black hair types a miniature, because if you think my infundibulum has got a metre-long cane on it, these are not going to get that big. But it's a plant that's been grown on from a young plant, and what I liked about it was the fact that it's got two new growths of equal size and length, so it's got two growing points on it, and those should continue. And occasionally you will get two new growths off one, so we could get more than two leads growing at the same time. So that'll be interesting to grow on. The two canes have still got growing points on them, yeah, so they're not full size yet, they are still growing new leaves, and it'll be interesting to see what happens to that. So that was my haul. Those are they. They're all going to need some work. This one will get mounted, the black hair one. The one that's already on the plastic mount will get taken off and put on a proper mount. The David Sander Brassavola type will get mounted, so that's 3 mounts to do there. And the Cattleya will come out of the pot to get the moss off and go back in a pot, probably a holy clay pot, a small one. So we've got some work to do on those four. So that's what I got. Interesting, yeah, interesting. So that's that. And then we've got some blooms to look at. First of all, I have an agreement from people that I listen to, you know, they say good words. And my Dendrobium primulinum variety Laos is the real deal. This is it. Because somebody else who's got one had it sometime and this, that and the other said, yep, the blooms are exactly the same as mine. So it is the real thing. And I'm over the moon because that plant still don't look right. But those blooms are gorgeous. Yeah, that yellow centre fading through white before it gets to the pink, because yellow and pink next to each other sometimes don't work, and that's got just the right blend. And you know, for a relatively young plant, that's not bad blooming. 3 blooms on each of the 2 canes that I grew last year. And it blooms, this one is a totally deciduous annual bloomer. Yeah, so this blooms this time of year on the previous year's growths that will have lost their leaves completely. So the blooms are always on bare canes. So that's that one. So that's more, you've seen that before, but the blooms weren't fully open. My Kaniko's come back into bloom. These are good. It's got buds coming out in various places, so it's having a go at long last, but this is the first cluster to sort of open up properly. Not a big cluster, but it's, as I say, it's coming back into bloom after quite a long rest this time actually. And this blooms on and off all the time really. That's the first time it's gone a few months without any buds pushing out. And it's got other buds pushing out in various places. And it's got some canes that are becoming deciduous, because this is like a 2-year cycle on this one before the leaves fully drop. And then those will be the ones that start to bud next once all these leaves have gone. And we've still got stacks of new growth coming on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 new growths. And a kiki down here, a very long thin one. But yeah, that blooms on and off most of the time, so that's just come back into bloom, so that's a nice splash of colour there. And I'll try, can I get at this one? Well, it's not can I, I'm going to get at it. You're coming out whether you like it or not. My Aphyllum has now got all of its buds open, and it's a relatively poor blooming for my plant. As I said, these long cane plants all got remounted, so they got taken off and remounted, disturbed the roots, blah blah blah. But you know, the kikis all got planted up. They will all produce new growth this year, which hopefully will grow some decent sized canes. And the main plant should produce at least one more new cane. And again, this is another one blooms on the deciduous canes, but it does like to make me a liar sometimes, and some of the kikis have got buds on and they've still got their leaves on. Under normal circumstances, this is what it does. Grows its canes, they arch over, lose their leaves in the winter and push their blooms out in the spring. Lovely delicate little blooms these are. Yeah. And they have got a very deep bit of colour, but it's on the outside of the lip. So it's around the back of the lip where it's got some very heavy purple veining. So that's that one. They won't be there long, 12 to 14 days if you're lucky. You might even get 3 weeks if the temperatures stay cool. They don't last long. They don't last long at all. And what else? The other one is I've got to fiddle around, so I've got to move some plants because it's buried. Plus my oncidium just keeps wanting to fall over. I've only got to look at it and it falls over. It's in a very light pot. Needs watering basically. My cattleya has opened. So this is my red cattleya. Now that's not a good cluster for this plant, but again it's one of my cattleyas that had the root issues, and it's recovering from that. So quite honestly, I didn't expect it to bloom. But about I think 4 buds have blasted off of that cluster. So you can imagine if there were 4 more blooms on there, what it would look like. So they're not large blooms, but it's a cluster type that makes up for it in large numbers. It's a gorgeous red, and that's it. It is just red. That's what I like about it. Different shades of red, but only red. No yellow, no orange, just red. And it's sort of a bit of a giveaway with the name, because that's Cyan Yew, Red Pearl, Red Dragonfly. So we managed to get red in the title twice. But yeah, that's a nice splash of an unusual colour for me. There isn't much red in here at all. So that's that one, looking good. So I'm going to have to sort out my display table because it's not working very well at the moment. And I'm going to use that as an example of a type of bloom. Yeah. Now, for the first time out to play was the Mathis Foundation. This is their speciality. And I filmed their display, and I'm not kidding you, I think I was dribbling. I was thinking, where can I get a bank loan? And then I remembered it's a foundation. You can't buy their plants. You can't get at them. But they're relatively new. They got a lot of plants from the Eric Young Foundation, some from McBean's, and some from private collections, to get them going, if you see what I mean. But they will be the main hybridizer for Cymbidiums and the older Odontoglossum types, probably in the whole of Europe. And they do it properly. It's not mass-produced stuff. They will have seeds, flasks, and seedlings. And they are working towards being able to sell. But like they said, if we open to sell, we have to have enough to keep it going. It's no good starting to sell plants and they're all gone in a week. It's not going to work, so it's going to take time. So they're working on it and we're working on them. Come on, we need to buy some of these plants. But you wait till you see the video of this display. Absolutely stunning. As I said, I'd have mortgaged my house to buy some of those. Not that you can buy them. Right, so relatively short today, but that's going to be it. And things to come, we will have obviously the video clips of the RHS Orchid Show. It's a bit bitty because quite honestly, it was the RHS Show. Wisley is one of the really popular RHS gardens. It was a weekend and the sun was out. The place was heaving. And trying to film in a room full of people is almost impossible. So while I was filming, sometimes I'll just stop. And that's basically because I'm waiting for somebody to move. And every time I got back to get a better shot, 2 people stood in front of me. Very, very difficult to film. So it's going to look a bit bitty, but you'll get the idea of what the show was all about. I mean, there was a couple of society displays, the Mathis Foundation, which is just a display, obviously no sales. The Ridlington School Project were there, you know, all grown in glass houses by the students, you know, under supervision. When I went there, it was embarrassing, but wonderful nonetheless. As you walk in and some 12-year-old takes you round and tells you all about the orchids. You sort of follow them around. Oh dear. But they do it very well. So there was that there as well, and yeah, a few other bits and pieces, but you'll see in the video. But I mean, I actually got barged out of the way twice. Literally. Can you imagine? People are looking at a display like that and they walk. They just go straight into you. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. No, what you mean is you weren't bloody looking where you were going, excuse my French. But I actually got knocked out of the way twice. And when you're in London and somebody bumps into you, the first thing you do is check your pockets. Yes, you get bumped into on a London street, your wallet's probably just gone. Right, so that'll do for today. Short and sweet, and videos to come. We've got the work to do on these plants. My shelves have arrived to go in the lounge, so I can bring some stuff from the shed in. I can get a video out of that. Getting myself organised, that still comes as setting up the grow room. It's still part of the setup, so we'll be doing that. I've got bonsai work to do. My tools should arrive tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday at the latest. We'll be straight on to repotting that Dishojo. And as I said, I will do the bonsai videos. They're not anywhere near as popular as my orchid videos, which is understandable. It's an orchid channel. But from the comments I've got from that little one I did from scratch, there's quite a few people are thinking of having a go. All I can say with that is good luck. There's a lot of training and expertise have gone into here to be able to get me to do that. It's not something you can just do off the cuff. So good luck with that if you're going to give it a go. But I was just going through buying bonsai with Hannah, you know, and a silly little starter tree, not as good as that, you know. You're looking at 25, 30 quid, and that'll be in a rubbish pot. You know, it's an expensive hobby, bonsai. If you're looking at some of Peter Chan's specimen plants for sale, I mean, there's one in there for £7,500. It's a tree in a pot, and it could die in the winter. You know, it's a risky hobby as well. But then we lose orchids, don't we? Orchids die. So, okay, so an enjoyable day out tomorrow. I came back with my knees aching like anything. And that was, I wanted to see the waterfalls and the rock gardens that run down the side of a hill to the lakes at the bottom with the big koi carping. And I wanted to see that because I like that environment. And I've forgotten how big those steps are. And it's you know, when you're getting older, stepping down a step that big is a jar on your knees because you've got all your weight going down on one leg. And then and I said to Hannah, you know, when we get down the bottom, what we're going to have to do, don't you? Oh, what's that? We have to get back up again, aren't we? Oh, it's a struggle. I am getting older, basically. So my knees hurt when I got home, and so did my back. A combination of a not very comfortable coach seat and standing up for the whole of the rest of the day. So backache, which is still with me today, and knee ache, they seem to be okay today. I'll live, I'll get better. So yeah, a few things to come. Busy week for me. I've got a lot to do, and in doing that, videos will be made. So I'm not having to, one of those annoying little flies, I'm not having to think about what can I film this week. I've got plenty to film this week. So there we go. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.